So circles part 2. Solve for x. Assume that lines which appear tangent are tangent. What does it mean to be tangent?
To go through the circle.
Not to go through the circle, to touch the circle once. So let's see, where's a tangent line? This would be a tangent line. I think that's the first one. So I have two secants. This is a secant and that is a secant. The way we do this one is we take the outer side, or the outer part, times the whole. What would the whole part be? 7 plus x. And we set it equal to the outer part on this one times the whole thing on this one. What's the whole thing over here? 21. And then we solve this. 7 times 7 is 49 plus 7x equals 8 times 21 is 168. I'm going to subtract my 49. That gives me 7x equals 119. Divide by 7. And I get x equals 17. Okay. Are any of these other ones like this? Number 3 is like that, so I'm going to go ahead and do that one. Outer part times the whole thing, which would be 7 plus x, starting off very similar to the previous one, is equal to the outer part times the whole thing. What's the whole thing on this one? 14. So again, distributing, 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times x is 7x. And this time 8 times 14 is 112. I'm going to move the 49. 7x equals, let's see, 112 minus 49 is 63. Divide by 7. And what does x equal?
9.
X equals 9. Okay. Now, which one looks kind of similar to these? Number 2 or number 4? 4. 4 is similar in that on this side it's going to be the outside times the whole thing. What would we call the whole thing? 9 plus x. But the other side, I don't have an outer side and a whole thing. So I say 15 squared. You're otherwise, in other words, you're multiplying it 15 and 15. So let's see, I have 81 plus 9x equals, what is 15 squared? 225. I'm going to subtract 81. 9x equals 144. Divide by 9. And x equals 16. Okay. Now, number 2 doesn't have any secants. It has 2 chords. So this one is a little bit different. The way I set up this one is this length times this length is equal to this length times this length. So that gives me 27x equals 18 times 21, which is 378. Divide by 27, and x equals 14. Okay? Any questions about that first part?
No.
Okay. Now, next part is very similar. The difference is we have x's in here, which are a little bit trickier to find. Okay? Let's see. Okay, so this one's a little tricky to see, but LE is actually what's being labeled as -4 plus 3x. So I'm going to set up the same type of equation that I did up in number 2. So I'm going to say 18 times 21 is equal to 27 times what? -4 plus 3x. Now on this one, it's not going to be enough just to get x. I have to get x, but then it's asking for LE, so I have to plug it back in to get my final answer. So 18 times 21 is 378 equals 27 times negative 4, negative 108, plus 27 times 3, 81x. I'm going to add 108. So 81x is equal to 378 plus 108, 486. Divide by 81. And x equals 6. Now my answer is not x because I need to find LE. So LE is negative 4 plus 3x, and I'm going to plug in the 6 for x. So that's negative 4 plus 3 times 6 is 18. That gives me an answer of 14. So LE is 14. Okay? TD is the same process. 10 times 4 is equal to 5 times x minus 1. This one's a little bit easier because the numbers that we're dealing with are easier. So that means 40 equals 5x minus 5. So 5x equals 45. Divide by 5, and what does x equal? 9. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for TD. So 9 minus 1 is 8. Pretty easy? Okay. All right, what is number 7 going to be set up like? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Number 7, what kind of picture does that look like? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Looks like number 4. So I'm going to say that the outer part times the whole thing. What's the whole thing?
18x plus negative 3.
18 plus negative 3 plus 7x. Yeah? Equals, what do I do to the other side? Square it. Right? Because there's no outside part and whole. So let's see. I'm going to do a little bit of simplifying in here. 18 plus negative 3 is 15 plus 7x equals, what's 30 squared? 900. So let's do some multiplying. 18 times 15 is 270 plus 18 times 7 is 126. X equals 900. What am I going to do next? Subtract 270. That means 126x equals 900 minus 270, 630. Divide by 126. X equals 5. It's asking me for RP though, so I need this whole thing. So, if X is 5, what is PQ? Negative 3 plus 7 times 5. Negative 3 plus 7 times 5 is 32. So what is RP? It's going to be 32 plus 18, which is 50. So my final answer there is 50. So getting X isn't enough. You have to continue on. Okay? All right. Find JL. So these two, 8 and 9, are just like 1 and 3, where we're going to have to do the outer part times the whole thing is equal to the outer part times the whole thing. So 7 times the whole thing. What's the whole thing? 7 plus X plus 9, right? The whole thing would be 7 plus X plus 9, right? Equals 8 times what? 14, because the whole thing is 14. So I think I can do some simplifying in here first. 7 plus 9 is 16. And over here, 8 times 14 is 112. So let's see, 7 times 16 is 112 plus 7x equals 112. So this one's kind of interesting. So I'm going to subtract 112. That means 7x equals 0. So if I divide by 7, x equals 0. So if x equals 0, what does jk equal? 9. I'm looking for JL, so I'm going to do 9 plus 7 is 16 would be my final answer. Okay. And number 9 is done the exact same way. So 7 times whatever the whole thing is. What's the whole thing? 18 is equal to the outer part here, which is 6 times 6 plus 4x minus 1, right? 6 plus 4x minus 1 would be the whole thing. So 7 times 18 is 126. Over here, let's see, how can I do this? I'm going to simplify what's inside. I have 6 plus 4x minus 1. That ends up simplifying to 5 plus 4x. So 126 equals 30 plus 24x. Move your 30. 126 minus 30 is 96 equals 24x. What am I going to do? Divide by 24, and I get x equals 4. So if x equals 4, 4 times 4 is 16 minus 1 is 15, so SR is 15. Is that what they're asking for? So my answer is 15. Okay, so on the back side here, we are dealing with angle measures instead. So, what do I know about an angle that happens outside here? Well, an angle that's out here, 60 degrees, is going to be equal to 1/2 of the big arc it makes minus the small arc it makes. So if this is the question mark, I'm going to call this x. So 1/2 of x minus 56. Now, I don't want to deal with a fraction any more than I have to, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 2 on both sides so that I get 120 equals x minus 56. And then how would I find x? Add 56. So when I add 56, whoops, plus 56, not 156, what does x equal? 176 what? Degrees. Okay. Number 11, same type. I'm going to call the question mark x. So the angle is equal to 1/2 of the big arc it makes minus the small arc. Again, I don't want to deal with a fraction any longer than I have to, so I'm going to go ahead and double both sides to get rid of it. What's 2 times 49? 98. Equals x minus 52. What do I do? Add 52. 98 plus 52 is 150 degrees. Okay. Now, number 12 is a little bit different because here's x, but they don't give me the other arc. But what do I notice about x and the other arc? They make up the whole circle, don't they? Up here, they didn't make up the whole circle because there were still 2 arcs that were left out. So if this is x, I'm going to call this one 360 minus x because together they equal 360. So what does that tell me? 55 degrees is equal to 1/2 of the big arc, which is x, minus 360 minus x. Now you notice I put that smaller arc in parentheses. Why did I put that in parentheses? Because I'm going to have to distribute that minus sign. Now, before I distribute the minus sign, I'm going to multiply by 2 to get rid of the fraction. So that gives me 110 equals, now let's see what we've got here. X minus 360 plus x, right? So I have 110 equals 2x minus 360. Add 360. 2x equals 470.
Whoa, you're going too fast.
Divide by 2. And what's 470 divided by 2? 235. Okay, so next one. My angle is what I'm looking for. I'm going to call that x. X is equal to 1/2 of the big arc. What's the big arc? 155 minus the small arc? 45. So x equals 1/2 of, what's 155? Minus 45 is 110. So what does x equal? 55 degrees. Okay. 14, x is still the angle I'm looking for. So x is equal to 1/2 of the big arc minus the small arc. I don't know the big arc though. But I do know that it's only 2 arcs that make up the circle. So 360 minus 132 means the big arc is 228. So 228. So when I do big arc minus small arc, it's 228 minus 132. So x equals 1/2 of 228 minus 132 is 96, and 1/2 of 96 is 48 degrees. Okay. So this one you could go a couple different ways. This is that rule where the angle times 2 is equal to the arc. But I don't want to multiply that by 2. Let's see. I could multiply this by 2, and that tells me that this is 112, right?
Yeah.
What do I know about 112 and this arc?
That they both equal 360?
They equal 360. So I could do 112 plus 25x minus 2 equals 360. Now another way I could do it is I could find, if this is 56 degrees, I could find this angle, right? And I could say that double that is equal to this. So that's another way I could go about that. So let's see, 112 plus 25x minus 2 equals 360. If I combine my like terms, I have 110 plus 25x equals 360. What do I do from here?
Subtract 110.
Subtract 110. So 25x equals 250. Divide by 25. And x is 10. Yep. All right. This one, the angle, which is 12x plus 2, is equal to 1/2 of the big arc minus the small arc. I don't know the big arc. How can I find it?
130 minus 360.
Close. 360 minus 130 is 230. So, big arc minus the small arc. So, 12x plus 2 is equal to 1/2. Notice I didn't get rid of the fraction yet, because it's going to multiply out nicely here. 230 minus 130 is 100. And what's half of 100?
50.
So 12x plus 2 equals 50. Subtract 2. 12x equals 48. Divide by 12. And x equals 4. All right. Number 17. The angle, 2x plus 18, is equal to the big arc, minus the small arc, and I forgot the 1/2 in the front, so I got to put that there. So 2x plus 18 is equal to 1/2 of, what's 140 minus 60? 80. 2x plus 18 equals, half of 80 is 40. Subtract my 18. What's 40 minus 18? 22. Divide by 2, and x equals 11. Okay. And the last one. The angle is equal to 1/2 of the big arc, which is 38x plus 1, minus the small arc, which is 89. So 7x plus 4 equals 1/2 of 38x minus 88. Is that right? Now, I don't want to distribute, let's distribute 1/2, because since both of these are even, 1/2 will distribute nicely. If I didn't want to, and I wanted to multiply by 2, I have to multiply both of those by 2. So let's see, 7x plus 4 equals, what's half of 38? 19x, and half of negative 88 is negative 44. Now, do I want to move the 7x or the 19x? To keep things positive, I'm going to move the 7x. Doesn't really matter, but I just like positive numbers. 19x minus 7x is 12x minus 44. I'm going to add 44. 12x equals 48. Divide by 12, and what does x equal?
4.
It equals 4 again. Okay, so there you go. Circles part 2. Happy studying.